Welcome back to Jesus Week on the Nathaniel Stacy 1 channel. Yep, it's another video about Jesus. With Easter coming, I think it's appropriate. So I'm going to answer the question, was Jesus actually killed on a cross? If you were to ask the average secular Bible scholar, the answer would range from maybe to probably. If you ask me, the answer is actually almost certainly yes. I do actually think Jesus was almost certainly crucified and died that way. And the reason is the humiliation factor. And it's not just, as you will often hear about, it was humiliating for him to be executed as a criminal. I'm talking about the speed of his death, which is something you'll hear occasionally, but not too much. Crucifixion was not necessarily a form of execution for everyone who was crucified. A person could be crucified for a day or two, brought down and allowed to live. There are records of that happening. A person could be crucified and then killed in some other manner, or a person could be executed and then their corpse crucified. When a person was executed via crucifixion, it could take a long time. It could take several days for a person to die of dehydration, exposure, and shock on the cross. Jesus died after a few hours, which, not to be offensive to anyone, but I'm going to label this the weakling factor. That would be a humiliating end for a superhuman character, to die after just a few hours of being crucified. It would be kind of like if you wrote a story about Superman in which he died of pneumonia a week after catching a cold. It's just not the way Superman would go out. So in Jesus, you have this superhuman, supernatural character who's able to perform miracles, who's able to raise people from the dead, and you hang him on a cross and he dies a few hours later, like a weakling. It's just not an acceptable ending to his life. I don't think it's something that anyone would make up as part of the story. And then reading the gospel accounts and other things written about Jesus in the Bible, which there's actually not that much, mostly in the gospel accounts, there was quite a bit of PR effort put into establishing how this death on the cross was not only not shameful for him dying as a criminal, but not shameful for him dying, and dying so easily, and dying in this way, because he's not really dead. He died because it was his intention to die. It was God's intention for him to die. So he died on the cross, but then he was back, and he was in his body, and these wounds that had killed him hadn't really killed him, and Thomas was able to stick his fingers in and stick his hand in and whatnot. But it was, for those early Christians, probably a big problem. And the story of his early disciples kind of splitting up and going back to their old ways of life immediately after his execution was probably also at least somewhat accurate, because they were expecting the Messiah to be a warrior who would reestablish the nation of Israel, not a guy who would be crucified as a criminal and die a few hours later as a weakling. Anyway, that's why I think it is almost certain that at least the basic story of Jesus being hung on a cross and dying a few hours later is probably true. And then early Christians had a lot of work to establish that this wasn't something to discredit him as a God-man. Thank you for watching. I hope you will subscribe and like and comment and share and all kinds of great stuff. Until next time.